When it comes to what makes a video game pop for me, it's all about emotional stimulation. I play games because I want to feel a certain way. This is usually why I avoid games like Marvel Rivals or Overwatch or anything really competitive. Because the only emotion they make me feel is just pure frustration and anger, and I can't play them, so it's not good for my brain. I play a game like Stardew Valley because I want to feel calm and surrounded by nice people. Or I play something like Skyrim on easy settings because I want to go on this amazing epic adventure. Or if I want to bask in the beautiful yet empty aesthetic that a game like Easy Delivery Co. brings, well then that's what I'll play. I'll play Easy Delivery Co. But my point is that for me, emotions are the biggest part of any form of media. Movies, games, TV shows, books, AO3 fan fiction, manga, anime, whatever. It's all about how it makes you feel, right? And Whiteknuckle makes me feel so many things. It's this cacophony of chaos, frustration, tenseness. How do you say that otherwise? And excitement. And as I've played through the game over and over again, I just started noticing all these little things that I wanted to ramble about. The core premise of Whiteknuckle is already genius because it places all the control in your hands. Literally, you have a left hand and a right hand, and then like the typical WASD movement type stuff. But from the very start, you have all the power, all the control. This isn't something like Five Nights at Freddy's where all you can do is just sit there and hope you're doing things correctly. You exist in this little space, and it's up to your own skill to navigate out of it. And unlike most platformers or parkour games where you're just kind of jumping from one flat floor to another, and like, it's kind of hard to explain. It's like you know exactly what animations are triggered by what terrain in like Dying Light, for example. So it's very, like mechanical, I guess, when you're trying to go around. Like you know exactly what is and isn't grabbable and what animation your character's gonna do. Whiteknuckle isn't like that at all. You have to seriously manage yourself in every movement you make. Your hands can only hold on to a ledge for so long, and there's a long list of enemies that are actively trying to end your life in a wide variety of ways. Bugs, sentient goo, walled tentacle thingies, an experiment gone horribly wrong, tiny little roach-looking guys, and then there's like the aforementioned goo restructuring itself into a giant worm that is actively chasing you down and doing anything it can to add you to its mass. And then there's the setting itself. I don't know exactly what it is, and the game is still in early access, so I don't think there's an official answer available to the public for where you are. But as far as I understand it, you are in this massive facility that I think serves as a giant research lab. Except it's not only researchers that are here. It seems like there are some prisoners, some workers, some scientists, and some generic office people. I see it more as a giant underground civilization that has the primary goal of scientific advancement. But, I mean, since this is such a giant layered complex, it has a lot of different needs, and as such, a lot of different people. And when you climb higher and higher, you see signs of life, signs of habitation and experimentation, but it's all empty. It's like if you turned Portal into a horror game, where I imagined there was once these giant chambers full of machinery and a working society that all functioned in tandem with one another. It's all fallen apart and left only fleshy abominations and supernatural horrors in its place. And you're the only person left as you desperately ascend the superstructure of Whiteknuckle. So, the game already paints a vivid picture of where you're at and what you're stuck dealing with. But it goes so much further than that. Circling back to what I said earlier, this game invokes such a complicated set of emotions from the player, the most prevalent of which is fear, anxiety, and drive. I've found that the game goes through this loop. There's fear, usually an instant, oh shit kind of fear. The type where you realize that you desperately need to get out of whatever situation you're in. Maybe you got grabbed by one of these guys, or maybe you just lost a ton of progress because some stupid bug knocked you off a ledge. Regardless, Whiteknuckle plays on this feeling of fear so well. Because if you did get knocked off your path, well, you already know the way back up, and can likely do it very quickly. But now you're climbing with anxiety. because now you have to very quickly ascend back up the way you came, but this time that goo that slowly rises is closer to you. You can hear it, and odds are there's a few threats that you'll have to dodge once again. But, and the really beautiful part of this, is that the anxiety is making you stupid. You're making jumps where you don't need to, rushing through things that you should be very careful about, all because of that panic that's rising in the back of your mind. And then the last and most important emotion is drive, the will to continue, to push on. This is single-handedly the most dangerous emotion this game instills in you. Drive can kind of run alongside anxiety. The anxiety you have is pushing you forward, sure, but at the same time, that drive is the thing that's making you cocky, overconfident, or just brave. Drive is the emotion that screams at you to keep climbing, to see what the next area is, to get to the next part, to grab the cockroach off the wall, since for some reason that's the currency here. Drive is what keeps you coming back after you die. It's what forces you to scamper up the wall like a madman as this shadow creature thing chases you. Now, I want to very quickly mark the distinction between drive and anxiety, because I kind of describe them as both doing the same thing. Drive is like the typical reason you play games. I want to get to the next level. I want to escape this monster, but in like a dedicated way. I want to, get the 100% achievement. It's kind of like those emotions that are very competitive and they drive you forward. Versus anxiety, where I feel like all of the push forward you get from that emotion is fear. It's primal. It's not I want to win, it's I don't want to die. And I feel like Whiteknuckle does a really good job of interweaving these while also playing on them separately. Whiteknuckle knows exactly how to manipulate you. It knows what monsters people are afraid of. It knows exactly what's going to annoy you. And it knows exactly how you're going to use the controls to try and survive. Something I think this game does amazingly well is the climbing controls. By binding the left hand and the right hand to your left and right mouse buttons, it feels so much more present and intense than any other parkour game I've ever played. I really like Dying Light, for example. Those games do a really great job with their parkour system, and I genuinely recommend them if you're a fan of the genre. But they will never match just how personal Whiteknuckle feels. When you're the one actively pressing the buttons, hoping your character will latch onto the wall, or when you're desperately trying to figure out where to go next as your hand gets red and slowly loses its stamina, and you hear that sound effect that's telling you, you're about to let go, you're about to fall, you're about to die. This game knows how to prey on your emotions, and like I said before, it does so by giving you, the player, so much control. You're never locked into a cutscene. You're never given any form of a safety net or immortality or anything. Even the save points, your one way to both keep your progress and come back from the dead, have this little animation tied to them. And instead of thinking, oh yay, I have a save point now, all it does is make you think, what are you doing to yourself? Are you like unwillingly selling your soul? Are you brainwashing yourself? Are you gonna escape the facility and then just blink and you're back here? This game offers you literally zero comfort. The only positive emotion you get is triumph and relief, but never comfort. Knowing you've finally beaten an area is triumphant, and you will feel relief knowing that you don't have to deal with the challenge associated with that place again. But at the same time, there is so much more ahead of you. So many more obstacles and stressors and things you can't even fathom. You might feel relief that an area was easy to scale or that a particular item saved you. But what happens next time when it isn't as easy? Or when you end up needing that item again, but uh-oh, you already used it. Oh, and we haven't even mentioned the ambience of Whiteknuckle. This game constantly feels so oppressive. You are given almost no breathing room, and the second you do find yourself in a wide open space, you find yourself missing the guaranteed path that the silo area provides. Sure, here you feel incredibly boxed in, but at least you have options while scaling this place. At least you can kind of bob and weave and pick where you want to go. But here, your one path is forward, and if for some reason that gets cut off, then you are just flat out screwed. The music, when it does kick in, is also working overtime and instilling that sense of dread in you. I'm gonna try and use only music from the game for this video, but no promises in case I can't get it to line up right. But, from when I have used it, hopefully you can tell what I mean. This game's music isn't always playing, but when it does kick in, it's almost always telling you that shit's about to get rough. Listen to what's playing right now. This music plays after you finish the first area silos and are now entering Pipeworks. This music is not congratulating you. It's not saying good job or keep going or anything positive. It's telling you that shit is about to get rough and scary and terrifying. You might have conquered one part of Whiteknuckle, but this next one will not be any easier. I find it really interesting how the sound effects work a lot in the same way. I wouldn't say there's any sound effects that are just calm. An example I'd use of calm sounds would be Stardew Valley or maybe Minecraft. I'm not sure how to explain this properly, but I'm gonna take my best crack at it. When a sound effect is trying to instill peace in you, it will usually rely on familiar things that the human brain just jives with. Think of something like a calm waterfall, the sound of locusts humming in the fields, or even the gentle hum of a car. These are all things you're probably pretty comfortable with, right? Well, another way to use comfy sound effects is to make them calm, but alerting. Think in Minecraft when you break a block. This isn't a scary sound, but it does alert you to what's happened. It's peaceful, kind of rounded, almost. It's really hard to explain, but I see it as a rounded versus jagged kind of logic. Round things are usually comfortable and nice, and jagged things are the opposite. When it comes to sound effects, I think you can apply a lot of the same logic there. And the point I'm trying to make is that Whiteknuckle exclusively uses jagged sound effects. The enemies are always screeching or making a kind of low, intimidating hum. Like the type you hear from a bear or elephant or something big. That, or they just sound absolutely grotesque. The goop that slowly rises makes this churning sound as it gets closer to you, and whenever I hear it, I literally think of sewer water or like poop in toilet water or something. I know it's a gross example, but I hope you get what I mean. It's meant to instill that reaction of, ew, that is so nasty. The bug creatures always have a sharp, screeching noise attached to them. It's like when you walk outside and a giant fucking moth flies right into your face. Those things are always so loud. You can hear that chirpish, fluttering noise that's somehow way too high-pitched, yet also deep and intrusive. Whiteknuckle's bugs usually leans more towards the high-pitched noises, but it does use both. The sound design here is absolutely amazing. Not only because it's intimidating, oh, I think my voice cracked. But it is intimidating, but also it's very good at giving you auditory clues as to what's happening. Usually, you're looking up, climbing vertically, and if you fall down and hear that somewhat faint churning noise that the goop makes, then you know you're way too close for comfort. Or if you're climbing and hear the liquidy, slimy, and moist sound of those tentacle things shooting out their little grappling hook limbs, you know, okay, I need to like mentally be aware of my surroundings now. Whiteknuckle does a really good job at making these different noises distinct. You could play any sound effect from the game and odds are I can tell you where and what it's from. There's just so much to praise this game for, so many details that honestly amaze me. This is a 3-person dev team, and yet so many little things have been stuffed into this game. There are secret areas, a lot of items, a dozen or so perks, a wonderfully vague yet detailed lore that you're slowly unraveling as you climb through the facility, and everything here just oozes aesthetic. One of my favorite details of this game is the announcer. It's like the facility's AI voice. Think of like GLaDOS from Portal, but a lot less emotional and very matter of fact. Most of the time, you won't really know what the speaker is talking about. Usually she says something like, "Alert, the heebie-jeebie schmeegus blue blops are now labeled as code red instead of code blue. Okay, bye." And that's all you really get. But as you do more and more runs, and as you listen to what exactly she's saying, you start to understand the language being used. Suddenly, Class 7 fluid isn't just some random gibberish that means nothing to you. You realize that she's talking about the mass that slowly follows you as you climb. When she speaks about something breaking containment, you don't know if that applies to you until you learn the names of these creatures. There's multiple points in the story, I guess, where she'll reference something that's coming up, or talk about something weird happening somewhere else in the facility. My favorite thing that she'll say is the following.
Emergency. Delta 45 has broken containment. The periphery artifact may attempt to deceive you. Do not trust anything you hear. Emergency. Unidentified emoji. You are required to reroute to Delta 45's research chamber in Sector 13. Alert. You are not obeying a direct command from the Superstructure Authority. For your safety, report to Delta 45's research chamber in Sector 13. By order of the Board of Directors, the emergency evacuation route to the surface has been moved to Delta 45's research chamber in Sector 13. Warning. You are missing a birthday party just for you in Delta 45's research chamber in Sector 13. Alert. Please come to Delta 45's research chamber in Sector 13. Notice. I will kill you if you do not follow Delta 45.
Tell me that isn't like the creepiest shit. Like, I know it probably isn't, but when you're so locked in on climbing and kind of start to tune out all the announcements, it's so strange to hear it suddenly try to coax you into doing something. It's like if the locust in the field suddenly beckoned you to come to them. I mean, as I was writing this script, I literally got goosebumps when I re-listened to these lines. And there's just so many different lines that are both clever and scary and sometimes funny and all around great at building atmosphere. And there's so much variation between the maps. And the procedural generation is done amazingly well. And the pixelated aesthetic really drives home that grittiness. And there are so many secrets that even after playing like 28 hours of the early access version of the game, there are still so many new things I'm finding. To the point where I don't know if the game is just randomly updating and I'm not noticing it, or if they found a way to like lock some areas behind playtime or what the deal is. This game has so many little details and ideas and mechanics behind it that you'll genuinely get incredibly lost trying to understand it all. And the lore, I mean, what the hell? Even with the incredibly limited information we have, there are so many things that are just there. Supernatural bullshit that sits around every corner. Some random queen lady that for some reason gave this facility something valuable, I don't know what, in exchange for keeping these ugly little worm things safe. An entity that somehow takes over the intercom and tries to trick you into finding it. A weird ladder monster that gets mad if you fall off. It's just crazy to me how much this game has to offer while in early access. I can't imagine what the last two areas will look like, considering how amazing the first four are. Each are so wonderfully distinct while still adhering to the same logic and rules that the game thrives off of. There's so much I could say, so many things I could just endlessly theorize about and ramble about and think about, and I'm sure in my own time I'll be doing all those things. And I know I already mentioned the like secret stuff you can find, but this game really takes it to the next step. There's one long, complicated process that you can do that eventually leads you to this room. And in it, I assume the lead developer herself will just sit and ramble to you on and off for 30 minutes, saying some of the funniest and stupidest shit I imagine she could come up with. She'll tell you that you need to use items more.
So I was looking through my notes, and it looks like you have a lot of improvements to make for your run times. I don't want to pry, but frankly, you know, watching you play, I think you should use items more. And they're in the game to speed you along, so yeah, use them. That's my advice. Like, if you want to get a little bit better, use more items. Like, it might feel a little cheeky, but just do it. Sorry.
She'll talk about her Teeth X Climber fanfic, which, if that does exist, I low-key do want to read it, so, you know, on the off chance a developer catches this video, then please let me read it.
Okay, let me read you this Climber X Teeth fanfic I've been working on. So, we start out on a dark and stormy night in the substructure, where we see a tall, dark figure. Oh, you probably don't want to hear this. It was going to be really emotional, passionate, with big twist at the end, but unfortunately they were never meant to be. It's okay, I'll find someone else who's interested.
But this area can only be accessed using console commands, so it is meant to just be like a jokey, funny, haha kind of thing. No secret lore here. Still though, it's another detail in a game that's already overflowing with them. I really hope it picks up in the same way other lore-heavy games do. I want to watch videos that are hours long deciphering every little detail and trying to piece together the story. I want to know what exactly was trying to lure me to Delta 45 or whatever that was. I want to know what the mass is. I want to know every little thing that the story has to offer. But honestly, if it did just leave a lot of it as loose ends and unexplained mysteries, then I can jive with that. It helps make the world feel more real if you just never know why things are the way they are. Though, I don't want to be like completely in the dark, I guess. You know, you gotta find a middle ground, right? I don't know what the right answer is, but it's so fun to think about. The last thing I'll touch on is just the monsters themselves. Not like the little ones that you can pretty easily skip around, but the main baddies. The Whiteknuckles, the teeth, the mass, but in worm form. The main enemies really tap into the supernatural element that I just love. The Whiteknuckles do a really good job at keeping you tense. They work on the logic of, if you look at them, they'll retreat into a spot where you can't see them anymore. But they also have an associated audio cue, so you know when they're close, and you especially know when they're sitting around a corner waiting for you to turn your head so that they can slink out and drag you into the abyss. They're not at all subtle, but they do a good job at making you paranoid and playing on your fear. Still though, if you know what you're doing and how they work, they're pretty avoidable. The same goes with every monster actually. The biggest skill you ever get in this game is your own personal experience. The monster I mentioned before named Teeth at first was the most terrifying thing ever. I wish I recorded the first time I ran into him because that gameplay would be so amazing to watch. I was genuinely freaking out in my chair, letting go of things accidentally, shaking my mouse with genuine fear. Man, that was a really good horror game moment. But as time went on, I figured out how Teeth works, and while it can still spook me pretty easily, I know how to manage it. Same with the mass. At first it feels like this super threat that will quickly overtake you if you mess up, but honestly, you get to be so efficient and quick with the climbing that after a while, the mass itself is the least threatening thing you have to deal with. But this kind of has to do with that cockiness I mentioned way earlier. When you feel good at the game, you do stupid things. You make stupid jumps. You think, I can beat the steam, and then you don't beat the steam and fall down this giant corridor. That's when the mass is at its most threatening. Not when you're climbing, but when you're falling. Which, that sounded cooler and more mystical in my head, but now that I've said it out loud, it just feels really obvious. Once the mass goes worm form, it becomes an entirely different threat. Instead of being this slow, inescapable force that pushes you forward, instead it becomes this obstacle that just gets in your way and stops you from being too complacent. When it's locked in on you, you need to desperately figure out your next move. If you sit still, then you get eaten. But if you immediately jump and panic, then you're gonna fall to your death. It really is this cat and mouse game about making sure that you're always in the optimal position for escape. When, in reality, there never is an optimal position. it always feels like it's coming for you a little sooner than what would be perfect. It's always bad timing, because the environment is so sparse and vertical that there's never a good time to be in mortal danger. That, paired with some of the other monsters that lurk around this level, honestly make it so tense and terrifying, and uniquely difficult in a way a lot of the other areas aren't. And I feel like there isn't as reliable of a way to get away from them. Like, you can dodge and run in circles if you want, but then its body is just going to get wrapped around what you need to climb. You can also just run forward if you want, but if you have to climb vertically, then it'll easily catch up with you. You could throw garbage at its face, but it seems like that doesn't detract it as much as you'd want it to. It's really just about managing your items and being hyper aware of your surroundings at all times, which I'm so terrible at. So every time it comes for me, I am left scrambling on the tiniest of ledges, hoping that I can twist around and dodge it without dying, or getting assimilated, or whatever the hell's going on here. Favorite is not a term I use lightly. Maybe this is silly of me, but I view the idea of a favorite movie with a lot of weight. It has to really tick all of my boxes to be what I consider a favorite. I can like something a lot. There are a lot of games I really, really love, but are they my favorite ones? No. I consider Outer Wilds to be my favorite game. I think it's perfect in every way, shape, and form. Just a masterpiece all around, and I haven't felt those same favorite emotions of mine get ticked by a game since I've played it. But Whiteknuckle is dangerously close to being my favorite, and if it doesn't make the mark, then it's second favorite easily. It really depends what the game will look like on full release, but if they do these last few levels right, in addition to just building on the items and secrets and perks they already have, I could see it getting there. And like I said, I know it's kind of lame to say out loud, but for me, favorite is a very serious title, not something I throw around willy-nilly. My favorite game is Outer Wilds, my favorite movie is District 9, and my favorite book is The Book Thief, and my favorite manga is Fire Punch. And it has been this way for years. That list doesn't change until the most perfect thing comes along. And like I said, Whiteknuckle is so fucking close to being there. I don't know. I'm really excited to see how they all wrap it up. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. This game is something I've grown to be really passionate about lately, and it's also like crazy addicting. Like I said, that high of triumph that this game brings is like nothing else. And it's always dangerous because I'll always start a run and be like, man, I'm so good at this game, and then die like 5 minutes in. But that's kind of the beauty of it, I think. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, then first, go buy Whiteknuckle. And second, maybe you could, I don't know, subscribe maybe? That'd be pretty cool of you. And maybe that'd make you my favorite subscriber. But seriously, if you enjoyed and would like to see more of me ranting about random forms of media that I like, then stick around, hang out a little, pull up a chair, and I don't know. The outro's gone on for way too long. Bye.